Welcome along to our Betting Weekly Wimbledon Draw Watch Along in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani, with me Nigel Seeley and Tim Dennis. We're going to be watching the draw live and bring you up to date with all the fixtures in the first round and maybe getting an insight into how the odds will be affected outright, and maybe looking at some of those round one matches. We'll tell you what's happening as it's happening from the draw at Wimbledon. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Tell us what you think in the comments and follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. And of course, you need to subscribe to the Betting Weekly Insider newsletter with picks on various sports for our team of handicappers. This week is a Wimbledon special, and you'll get tips from all of us on the biggest tennis event of the year. The draw is due to start in about 4 minutes. We're not exactly sure of the format, but as it happens, we'll let you know what's going on, and we'll look at some of those matches as the names are pulled out of the hat. Nigel, it's a great time of the year, isn't it?
Very good. Good morning to you, Rory. Good morning, Tim. I was, first of all, I thought that the theme music that producer John chose there was very gentrified, All England Club style. You know, that's the kind of stuff you see with the band as you walk into the All England Club, sort of a heavy metal grunge music there to go with the All England Tennis Championships. You'll be choking on your strawberries if you've had that. But yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, this year the market's dominated by two players, top of the market, Sinner and Alcaraz. We know they're in the different halves of the draw, but there are going to be some dangerous opponents, some dangerous floaters that you don't want to be having in your quarter. Unlike many years before, I was looking at all the bracket. There's not many people that you could automatically say, well, he can't play on grass anymore. Usually at Wimbledon, there'd be so many people you can rule out that they have no grass form whatsoever. But there's a lot of these players here who are capable. So it's quite a wide open draw. Looking forward to it. It always throws up a few surprises in the section. There's always somebody who gets heavily bet in the build-up to the tournament, and that man so far this year is the man we just put the bracket off there, Bublik. He's been the man that the public are getting behind. Interesting to see where he is in the draw as well. So some talking points about it. Will Jack Draper be able to handle the pressure? Will he, always got to get past the first round. It's very difficult for people from their home slams to get past round one. So it's interesting to see how he gets on. But it's the first time we've done one of these draws, so it's interesting to see how it goes. And I'm just hoping that we don't go live at 10 o'clock and they go, right, to do the draw for the over 45 mixed doubles to start with. And we're here till 2.5 hours trying to get the draw done. But let's see how we go.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Morning, Shane, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to be starting soon. Nigel's just touched on the men's tournament. Tim, the women's, I suppose we've got Arina Sabalenka as our favourite, but she's never won a grass court final, and she's getting a bit of a habit of reaching finals and not winning them, isn't she?
Yeah, she has. I think certainly she said that to herself after the French. I think she was quite concerned about perhaps her emotions getting the better of her. So maybe that's something she's taken as a note, really, that going forward, perhaps that's a little bit of a worry for her, but maybe she's noted it and now she can move on past that. But yeah, I suppose you never won a grass court final. I guess how many are there really? You probably the build up, the grass swing isn't obviously that long, not like the clay or the hards. And obviously I think she's been a losing semi-finalist here twice, so it's not like she's got a bad record here. And last year she missed out with a shoulder injury, and I think the year before that she wasn't allowed to play because of her nationality. So I think now she's probably the best she's ever been, hasn't she, as an all-round tennis player? So I think if she's ever going to win, it's every chance of being this year from my perspective.
Shane says Tim reminds me a bit of referee Graham Pole.
Same amount of hair, anyway.
You ever had that look-alike before, Tim?
No, maybe there's some work for me out there though. If that's
there isn't much hair on this panel. All we need, if we could get Andre Agassi as a pro to come on this show as well, would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's not much. there's more hair on the bottom of our heads than the top of our heads between the three of us.
Yeah, I've got a bit of Uncle Albert going on there.
During the war.
Well, we used to have James Blake, didn't we? So the follow count wasn't all that high.
Yeah, Sean Calvert. There must be something about these tennis players tennis shows. There's two American guys who joined us, Mitch Michaels and Dustin Fox. They're
Mineheads.
not out. Well, Wimbledon draw. I can hear some music going on. So it's obviously it's all happening.
The presentation is starting. I mean, we were talking about Sabalenka and we're talking about, obviously, players. The draw is so important. The draw is not. Oh, come on, Matt.
I think
Matt is a.
You Matt Lock, Nigel? You that a pseudonym?
Matt is an absolute legend. Matt, he knows spots a bit of value when he sees one there. The question that Shane put a good question is there. Have you ever had the double, the men's and the women's double? Well, I never usually bet doubles like on the draw. I bet singles, but one year I did, and in 2001, I bet the Venus Williams at the time was dominant in the women's, and I thought she was a certainty, and I put her in with Pat Rafter, and I lost it. We're straight in already. They're off straight in. We're off already. Here we are, straight into the draw. So I bet Venus Williams and Pat Rafter in a double, and Pat Rafter let me down. So it's a bit of a disaster.
So the seeds are being placed in the draw as we speak. So Sabalenka's gone right at the top because she's the number 1 seed. Coco Gauff right at the bottom as number 2. And now, okay, Jasmine Paolini's been placed in the what would that be? Well, she's in the first quarter. Yeah, she's in the first quarter. And Jessica Pegula's been placed in the second to last 16th of the draw. It's a little bit complicated, but all that's happening is the players, the seedings are being placed. So Sabalenka's 1, Gauff 2, Pegula 3, Paolini, last year's runner-up, is number 4. Madison Keys has been placed in. She's the number 6 seed, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's in the same 8th of the draw.
Sabalenka.
As Sabalenka.
Yeah, that's right.
So that, we could get an early repeat of the Australian Open final.
That's a quarter final.
That's
not good for us, Madison Keys betters, is it, Rory? I bet Madison Keys with you. That's not good for us.
Well,
she's got
to play her at some point, hasn't she?
Yeah, I'd rather play her in the final.
Yeah.
And collect the each way money.
Wow, this is already quite interesting. Iga Swiatek has come out. She's in the second. Beg your pardon. They've got a weird layout on the.
So it's going to be Sabalenka and Keys in the quarterfinal, Paolini and Zheng in the quarterfinal, Andreeva Pegula and Swiatek Gauff. That's how the quarterfinals will go. Now we've got Badosa in that quarter with Sabalenka, Badosa, and Keys. That'll be the way. So Sabalenka will play, Badosa will play Keys. Schneider. Has now gone into the section with Paolini and Zheng. So that looks a weak quarter already, that one.
Yeah.
Emma Navarro's got in with Pegula. So they're bringing in the quarters in here.
And they played each other yesterday, of course.
The battle of the billionaires.
Yes.
Rybakina's now look at that. So Swiatek, Rybakina and Gauff in Q4.
Goodness me.
So that's extremely tough quarter. So you can see already now that the Q2 and Q3 are becoming the easy quarters. The women's draw. Q1 and Q4 is very difficult. Svitolina's now in Q4. So they're the 4 seeds in Q1, Roy. That's a tough quarter.
It really is. Yeah. So already looking like an obvious bias in the draw.
Well, Q2, Anisimova's gone into Q2. That's a good draw for her. Paolini not playing well. Schneider and Zheng. I mean, Q2 is very, very, very the way you want to be. Q3 and Q4 has got Kasatkina. So Swiatek, Rybakina, Kasatkina and Gauff.
Well, Kasatkina's been in dreadful form. Ever since switching allegiance to Australia, she's barely won a match. And you wouldn't have thought Wimbledon would be her best slam. Elise Mertens, the latest name to go into the draw into the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's another tough.
And Donna Vekic is in the second quarter.
No, she stays in the
first quarter as well. Beatrice Haddad Meyer goes into the second quarter. And Yelena Ostapenko, is she anywhere near Iga Swiatek? She's not, by the looks of it. So she might not get a chance to extend her 6-0 record over the former world number 1. Barbara Krejcikova, just coming out. The reigning champion who reached the quarterfinals in Eastbourne but pulled out of her match yesterday with a thigh injury. She's in Q3.
She might not play, Mike. I think I've got a feeling she might not play.
Well, one thing was obviously she's had a back injury all season, but it was a thigh injury that caused her to miss yesterday, which makes me think that maybe she'll be okay. I saw a bit of her match against Jodie Burridge where she won, I think it was a final set tiebreaker. Her backhand was terrible. In the
Samsonova's got into that Q4 as well. So you got Swiatek, Bakina, Samsonova, and Goff. That is very. Now we've got Q1. It will be done here. So it will be Sabalenka v McCartney Kessler
as well.
Yeah, Mertens v Svitolina.
But so these will be the last 16
These will be last 32 matches.
Last 32
matches. So we've got Sabalenka Kessler, Mertens v Svitolina, Badosa v Vekic, Fernandez v Keys. That's Q1. Q2, Paolini v Noskova, Haddad Maya v Anisimova, Schneider v Ostapenko. And then we've got Kruger v Zhang. And then we have Andreeva. We'll play Magdalena Freck. Krejcikova v Navarro.
Yep.
Mukova v Alexandrova. Linette v Pegula.
We're waiting to find out. Swiatek against Kostyuk, and Kostyuk can barely win a match on grass, so that's a good draw.
Towson v Rybakina. Kazatkina v Samsonova. And Kenin v Goff. So that, to me, the person who's got the best draw there, straight away on the reaction, I think Jess Pegula's got the best draw of anybody in the draw. And I think as an outsider, Anisimova has got a good draw. Q1 and Q4 is very, very hard on those seedings.
Q4 looks terrible. I mean, what do we have? Swiatek, Rybakina. Okay, so now we're going to get the opponents. So Arina Sabalenka will face Carson Branstein of Canada qualifier, who beat Lois Boisson, and then she defeated her compatriot Bianca Andreescu and managed to get through yesterday. She was in a bit of trouble yesterday, but she did manage to get through. Next up, Lulu Sun, who was the surprise package last year. She's going to face Marie Bauskova.
Do you know what?
Republic. Emma Raducanu's been drawn out.
Well, she's got to play Sabalenka and that all Kessler.
So she's probably not going to go far. She faces another Briton in Mimi Zhu, the Welsh.
Lulu. I think she's got a shout her.
And Vondrousova, who is the dangerous floater, of course, the 2023 champion. She's up against McCartney Kessler.
And she will play Raducanu in round 2. So that is really, really tough.
Really tough.
Sabalenka, Vondrousova. Wow, that is a tough drill.
Elise Mertens will play Linda Fruvertova, the elder of the two Fruvertova sisters.
You still want to be taking Sabalenka to win this on this draw? She's going to drift big time on the back of this draw.
You'd think so. Anne Lee up against Victoria Golubic, the Swiss. Now Varvara Grecheva, who's had a good run this week in Eastbourne, if I'm not mistaken. She's up against Alexandra Sasnovic, very much a clay court specialist, Sasnovic. And then Anna Bondar will play, excuse me, Anna Bondar will play Elena Svitolina, again, Bondar, very much a clay court specialist. Paola Badosa against Katie Bolter in round 1. I think that's our pick of the first round ties so far.
That could be a shock, couldn't it? I think Bolter could fancy that.
Bolter, who just missed out on the seedings because she was beaten early in Nottingham in the quarterfinals.
That Sabalenka first 8 is really, really tough, man. That is honestly ridiculously tough. You know, Sabalenka, she's got to beat Vondrousova, who beat her last week.
Round 3.
In round 32, and then it's very tough.
Okay, some of the other matches. Greet Minen, the Belgian. She's going to play Olivia Gadecki from Australia. Anka Dodoni, the promising Romanian, she's up against Christina Buxa. Kimberly Burrell will play Donna Vekic. And now Leila Fernandez will play the British wildcard, the youngster Hannah Klugman. I think she reached the final of the girls' tournament at Roland Garros. So this second quarter looking a good deal easier than the first, has to be said. So we got Birel Vekic. Where were we? Birel Vekic, Fernandez Klugman, Peyton Stearns against Laura Sigemund. And now Olga Danilovic will play Shui Zhang, who came through the qualifiers and was actually quite impressive in the qualifiers. And now we find out who plays Madison Keys, and it's Elena Gabriela Rusa, the Romanian.
She'd beat her.
She should do.
Nothing to worry about there. She's never won a match at Wimbledon.
Has she not? Wow.
Played 4, lost 4.
So we're straight into the next quarter, and Yasmin Paolini will play Anastasia Sevastova, the Latvian veteran. And Kamila Rakimova has been drawn out. And she'll face Ao Ito from Japan. Next up is Eva Lees from Germany. Again, another player who would prefer it slower. And she faces Yue Yuan from China. So immediately, this is just looking a much easier quarter than the first. Bernarda Pera up against Linda Noskova, who having a good run this week. And Beatrice Haddad-Meyer play Rebecca Sramkova, ranked 36, and the Brazilian hasn't been in great form of late, so maybe there could be an upset in that one. Harriet Dart, she gets a wild card. Hasn't played that well recently, the Briton. She's up against Hungary's Dalma Galfi, who's not a bad player on grass, good server. Janina Wickmeyer, who's going to be retiring, I think, at the end of this season, the Belgian veteran. Pretty sure she said this would be her last Wimbledon. She faces the Mexican Renata Zarazua. And Yulia Putintseva will play Amanda Anisimova. And given Putintseva's form, you'd think that might be quite an easy opener for the American.
Just looking at how I think this will go before we go on the draw in a minute. I think it'll be Sabalenka v probably Vondrousova or Kessler in the last 32. Mertens v Svitolina, Badosa or Bolter v Vekic, Fernandez v Keys. That's your top quarter. Then we go Paolini v Noskova, Haddad-Meyer v Anisimova, and then we're working out the ring. So I'm just going through the draw here, working out potentially where the route will go and who's got the easiest route. So we're joining now in the second quarter still.
Yeah, bring you up to date. Deanna Schneider's going to play Uchijima from Japan. Deanne Parry will play Petra Martic, both coming through the qualifiers. Victoria Tomova will play Ons Jabeur, 2-time runner-up. Sone Kartal will face Ostapenko, again, having lost out to her at the start of the week at Eastbourne. Quick rematch. And Aisling Kruger will face the British wildcard, Stovslavljenovic.
I've heard a lot about this girl, Stovslavljenovic. Okay. She's supposed to be a real proper player. And if you can get a big price on her, I know a guy who was coaching her and told me about 2 or 3 years ago. Her father's Polish, and I think she's only about 16. They reckon that she's going all the way. I mean, she's a proper player. It could be a lookout for her. Keep an eye on that. If there's a big price from her, she could produce a shot there.
Yeah, Kruger, who I thought might be a lively outsider for Wimbledon given her game, but she hasn't played very well on grass at all this season. Next up in the draw, we've got Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova against Ayla Tomljanovic, the Australian. Naomi Osaka against Talia Gibson, and completing that top half, Katerina Siniakova against Coco Gauff. That's not an easy opener for Gauff by any means.
That's Zheng, isn't it? Not Gauff. That's Zheng.
Sorry, Qingwen Zheng. Beg your pardon.
The interesting thing there is if Zheng wins and Osaka wins, it sets up an Osaka v Zheng second round like Japan against China, which is quite an interesting little match up there if they both win their match.
Mira, who is straight on. There's no hanging about here with the draw. Mira Andreeva up against Maya Sheriff, who, as we know, very much a clay court specialist. Yil Teichmann of Switzerland against Lucia Bronzetti, who's in a pretty dismal run of form at the moment. And Hailey Baptiste will play Sorana Kirstia, which is, I think Baptiste beat her at Miami, if memory serves. And a tough opener. Well, we've got Anastasia Potapova against Magdalena Freck, and a tough opener for the Wimbledon champion against Alexandra Iala, the young Filipina player I think she's in the semi-finals this week in Eastbourne.
She gets beat there, I think, Krejcikova. But I don't think she'll play. She won't play after that draw.
That's the first match of the meeting, isn't it? Yeah.
First match on court,
yeah. So we've got a few more going in. So Caroline Dolehide against Arantxa Rus, the Dutch woman. Veronika Kudermetova against Lin Zhu, the Chinese. Petra Kvitova in her last Wimbledon will play Emma Navarro. That could be a good match, certainly for the public. I'm sure they'll all get behind the two-time champion. Karolina Mukova against, I believe that's Jinyu Wang. And that would be a tough one because Jinyu Wang reached the final last week in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken. So tough one for Mukova, who, as we know, has been struggling with injury. Well, we seem to say that all the time about her, but she hasn't played a lot of tennis of late. Let's bring you up to date. Zeynep Sonmez of Turkey will play Jacqueline Christian. Christian, you'd expect to win that. Suzanne Lammens against Eva Jovic. Now, Jovic won a grass court tournament last week, I think a challenger, or it may have been ITF at 125K, her first tournament on grass, and she won it. And we know that big things are expected from her in the future. Priscilla Hon of Australia will play Katerina Alexandrova. Magdalinette will play Elsa Giacomo, and Alicia Parks against Belinda Bencic. Now, Parks hasn't been in great form of late, but if she could get her serve going, and Bencic not a natural on grass, might be an upset there. Katie Volinet to play Tatiana Maria, who, of course, won at Queen's Club a couple of weeks back and former semi-finalist. And completing the third quarter, Elisabetta Cocciretto against Jessica Pegula. And what you were saying, Nigel, about the player who probably would be happiest with the draw, it hasn't changed. It's still Pegula, isn't it?
She's got the best draw. She'll be the biggest mover in the betting market on the back of this. I think Sabalenka will drift. I think Pegula will shorten dramatically. I mean, she's Andreeva really is the only person she's got to beat, really, to get to the semi-finals. And you fancy on that. That's a tough one for Swiatek to start there. Kudermetova,
Polina Kudermetova, she has. Katie McNally against Jodie Burrage, the Brit who gets a wild card. Camila Osorio of Colombia, she's next out, and she'll play Danielle Collins, who's another player who doesn't have the best record at Wimbledon. Veronika Erjevets of Slovenia will play Marta Kostyuk. And Clara Towson will come up against Heather Watson, another Briton who gets a wild card in this tournament. Anna Kalinskaya, who you'd think would have the game for grass, but hasn't done too much here. She's going to play Nina Stojanovic, qualifier from Serbia. Maria Sakkari next out of the hat. And she'll play Anna Blinkova. And now we'll find out.
Q3 is such the easiest court. Look at the Q3. I mean, Q3 compared to everybody else.
Yeah. Yelena Rybakina will open up against Elena Avanesian from Armenia, who was think she might still be in the top 50 of the world, but hasn't had the best last few weeks. Daria Kasatkina will play Emiliana Arango in round 1. And Irina Begu, who's another player who hasn't played a lot recently, the Romanian, she's up against Kaya Juvan from Slovenia, who came through the qualifiers. Yeah, that Q3 just is looking... I mean, Q4 is not looking too bad.
Well, you got Swiatek, Rybakina and Goff.
You get to the bottom of it, it's tough as well.
I mean, Swiatek played really well in this grass match yesterday. She played really well against Alexandrova.
Not an easy opener for Lyudmila Samsonova. I'll just go at ones we missed. Stara Dubtseva, Yulia Stara Dubtseva of Ukraine will play Francesca Jones. And then Maya Joint, who's in the semi-finals this week in Eastbourne. She's going to play Lyudmila Samsonova. Sophia Kenin against Taylor Townsend, All-American clash. Townsend's been very impressive in the qualifiers. Jessica Buzas Monero of Spain will play Ella Seidel from Germany. And just 3 more names to come out. One of them is Victoria Azarenka, and she will play Anastasia Zakharova, a qualifier. And Coco Gauff's opponent in round 1 will be Diana Yastremska. That's not the easiest opener by any stretch. Yastremska, who was playing quite well this week, but went out to Alexandra Iala yesterday, was well beaten actually by the teenager from the Philippines, the youngster from the Philippines. So we've got the whole draw. I don't know if you're able to watch it at home. You're watching the draw as well. You can see all the names, but I mean, it looks like Q3, and even Q2 doesn't look that bad either, but Q3 very much the easiest. But that Q1 and the top half in particular of Q1, Sabalenka, Raducanu, Vondrausova, Kessler, Mertens. I mean, there are some good players in there, and
Keys as well. She's in Q1. She's in the Q1.
She's in Q1 as well.
It's just a disaster for us on the Q1 side. I mean, if you're looking at, I'm just sort of jotting it down, and looking at the way I think this will go in the last 16. Roughly, I've got Sabalenka v Mertens as the one of the matches in the last 16. I've got Donna Vekic against Madison Keys, and then we'll set up Sabalenka v Keys in the quarterfinal. In Q2, I've got Paolini v Anisimova, Schneider v Kruger. But obviously got Osaka and Zheng in there, but I think Kruger's probably got. So Q2, if you look at the 4 people that you would expect to be in the last 16, Paolini, Anisimova, Schneider and Kruger, that's a lot favourable more than Q1. Q2, Andreeva, Navarro, Alexandrova, Pegula. Much, much easier than the other one, like Q1. And in Q4, Swiatek, Rybakina, Samsonova and Goff. So for Rybakina to win Wimbledon, she's got to beat Swiatek in the round of 16. She's got to beat Goff in the quarterfinals. She's got to beat Pegula in the semifinals, and then she's got to probably beat Sabalenka if Sabalenka gets that far to the final. So that is a very, very tough route in Q4. Q1, Q4, very, very tough. My strategy now would be try to hit big prices on people in Q2 and Q3. And if I was looking at that draw now, and someone gave me a free bet on the back of that draw, I'd bet Anisimova at a big price. And I'd have a couple of little bits on and the big move would be Pegula. Pegula would be my bet. There is the draw.
There it is on your screen. You can see Q1 on the left, all the way through to Q4 on the right. Tim, what are your thoughts? Anyone you'd be looking to play or fade on the back of that draw?
Yeah, and interesting, like you say, with the draw, it's not sort of top heavy one side, is it? You've got that Q1 and Q4 looking the most stacked of the two. So it's not like you've got a top heavy side being on the top or the bottom. So we're not really looking for each way plays on either side there, really. But I think agreeing with what Nigel says, you look at Pegula and Andreeva, they'd be pretty happy with what they see on that draw. And the same with Q2 with sort of Paolini and probably Anisimova. I think she's looked pretty good to me on the grass so far. So yeah, you want to be in 2 and 4, probably 2 and 3. Sorry, looking for a bit of value to find there. And yeah, those players are probably going to be it.
Any potential upsets in round 1? I mean, Goff's opener
Yastremska
doesn't look
Goff,
like-
yeah. Interesting to see what price Yastremska is. I think
the Bolter one be interesting as well. I think, you know, how the market would react to home advantage first match at Wimbledon against Badosa. I think that's an interesting match from a betting perspective. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think obviously the home crowd, but you'd expect Badosa to come through that, I'd imagine. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how they price it up, but I think I'd be making Badosa a good favourite there. How short she'd be is debatable, but yeah, I thought Yastremska probably in Goff. Goff will look at that and thinking, having only played one match on grass so far this year, she probably wouldn't want to be bumping into Yastremska, who's looked pretty good so far.
Yeah, as Dan Shaw says, 3 of the top 4 in the outright market are in Q4. That's right, Swiatek, Goff, and Rybakina, all in Q4. So you want to be looking elsewhere for a bet.
I think if Sabalenka gets through early, if Sabalenka gets to the quarters, she's going to be looking at probably reaching the final, isn't she? I think her earlier games are going to be harder than her later games, bar the final. It looks to me.
Von Druseva's the match. That's
absolutely
her test. Round 3. Von Druseva. You know, that match is the match. And whoever wins that, you would think will get to the quarterfinals. Where I would expect Madison Keys to wait. So I would be thinking about that. I like that. I like that British girl that I mentioned there in the draw. I mean, I was at Surbiton tennis tournament 2 years ago, and everyone was talking about this Stoshkevich. You can pronounce it wrong. Is Stoshkevich or something? Whatever. The young.
I did write it down.
She's
legit.
I think she's about 16 or 17,
yeah.
but she was tall. Someone was telling me she's about 6'1", 6'2", and they reckon she's going all the way to the top. And she's drawn against Kruger, I think it was. Was it Kruger?
That's right.
Kruger. And that might be a match where you could see a surprise. There's always a Brit that does well that nobody comes under the radar that no one expects. And a lot of people in tennis circles have been talking about this girl for a long, long time. And I would expect her to probably be around about, she could be around about plus 450, plus 5 to 1. So on a handicap with a 5.5 start, 6.5 start, she could be someone to keep an eye on at a big price. So I like that. The other one is on this Cartel against Ostapenko. I think that there might be a tough one for Ostapenko. I think that's
we got burned on that one at Eastbourne.
Yeah, but I think Wimbledon's a little bit of a different. I mean, she's got a feeling that might be a little bit. Are we ready? Are we ready to go men's now?
Yeah, we're on with the men's. Here we go, and the seeds being placed. Yannick Sinner, the number 1 seed at the top of the draw. Carlos Alcaraz, number 2 seed, 2-time defending champion. He'll be at the bottom of the draw. I mean, surely there's got to be some psychological effect on Sinner from that French Open reverse, hasn't there? If they were to meet again in the final.
I think it could be that you got to look at Jana Novotná as a perfect example. And then she should have won it. She won it a couple of years. I think she'd be, because he dominated that match apart from one game.
Yeah,
he should have won straight sets. So
yeah,
don't look at what you did wrong. Look at what you cost. I think it's motivation to make him go here stronger. I'm more Team Sinner than Alcaraz this year.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like there's no way Alcaraz should have won that match. There's just no way, and I just cannot believe Sinner didn't get over the line in that.
Well, the first thing here we've seen is Draper and Mazzetti are in the top half of the draw, and Djokovic. So
same quarter as Draper, yeah.
Draper, Djokovic will be a quarter-final. Sinner, Mazzetti will be a quarter-final. That is a tough draw already for Sinner. So Alcaraz is going to have a more favourable draw here with Fritz and Zverev in. Djokovic and Draper.
Final, yeah.
Fritz and Zverev in Q3 and Rune and Alcaraz in Q4. So already Alcaraz has got off lightly.
Well, he's already now. We know Alcaraz is going to be starting. They're vying for favouritism now. You know full well that Alcaraz is going to be favourite for Wimbledon, without a shadow of a doubt.
Ben Shelton's been drawn out. He's in Q1. We were talking about Shelton the other day, Tim, weren't we? Where, his serve's still working, but on return, he just seems to have lost the plot a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you think everything tells you he should be a decent grass court player, but he isn't. His stats are poor. His return stats are even poorer. And even his serve, I think he was broken at a few key stages in Mallorca the other day. I think he's serving at 4-all. He was broken there against Lerner-Tien, and yeah, he just looks to be lacking a bit of confidence, I think, perhaps.
Just pick up what Shane said about Jack Draper, lacking a bit of immaturity, perhaps. I'm not sure it's that with Draper. I just think he's got an issue with best of 5. I don't know what you guys think.
Definitely. And especially if it's a hot Wimbledon.
5, yeah.
If it's a hot Wimbledon, I mean, if he's playing against Novak Djokovic in a quarterfinal at Wimbledon and it goes to a deep fifth set, even at Djokovic's age, you've got to favour Djokovic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So the seedings are being placed. We're up to Francisco Cerundolo, 16. He's been placed, and he is in Q3. So in Q1 so far, we've got Sinner, Tommy Paul, Ben Shelton, Lorenzo Musetti. In Q2, Draper, Jakub Mensik, Alex de Minaur, and Novak Djokovic. In Q3, Taylor Fritz, Dmitry Medvedev, Francisco Cerundolo, and Alexander Zverev. And in Q4 so far, we've got Holger Rune, Francis Tiafoe, Andre Rublev, and Carlos Alcaraz.
That's an easy draw. Nothing's easy, but that's a very favourable draw.
Darren Pease, Alcaraz odds dropping as I type.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I think he could start even money, like he could start even minus money now, because the top half of the draw already on this here, it looks so much tougher than
it really does
before what we've seen. So Alcaraz is, if you can get on Alcaraz now anywhere, if they don't realise the draw's being bet and it's plus 150, plus 160, just get doing it, because he's going to be closer to even money in about an hour and a half from now. Yeah,
I suspect all the every bookmaker will have suspended their odds while the draw's going on. Dan Shaw, Q4 is a joke for Alcaraz. Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
It's really easy.
It looks, I mean, Tim, because you were saying with the women's draw, there wasn't an advantage in either draw or half of the draw. Of course, we had tricky quarters, but here it immediately looks very, very top heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Alcaraz is watching this and is probably licking his lips, thinking, okay, if he's going to meet any of these players, that they're only going to be in the final, whether it's going to be Sinner, Draper, Djokovic. I mean, he's going to be fairly confident of beating Tsitsipas, Tiafoe, Rune, Fritz, Zverev, Medvedev. I mean, yeah, he's pretty much a lock for the final already, isn't he? Which is a question of who he's going to meet there.
Denis Shapovalov's just been drawn out. I didn't realise he was back in the top 32. That's a bit of a comeback to form. Here's Brandon Nakashima. He goes in. Shapovalov will face Yannick Sinner early if they both come through their early matches. Here's Alexander Bublik. Where is
top
he
half
going?
Well.
Top half again.
Top half as well. Goodness me.
Mickelson top half.
If you're looking at other people like who've got a good draw here, and obviously Alcaraz has got a good draw. Taylor Fritz will be a big mover in the market. You've also got to think that Zverev will come through, and we've got to think that Fritz or Zverev potentially could be a semi-finalist here. And then they're only one match away from the final. So Fritz and Zverev will be quite happy with their draw, and they'll be heading to each other to play each other in the quarterfinals if it goes to full. Medvedev, who's got to the last 2 semi-finals at Wimbledon. And I know he's not playing that great this year, but he's got 4 as well. He's got a good draw as well.
Matteo Berrettini could be a dangerous floater. He's in the bottom half of the draw, as is Felix Auger-Aliassime. So the 32 seeds have been drawn, and we've given you some of the names in there already, but very much looking like you want to be bottom half in this men's draw because the top half is stacked. No doubt about it. And now we're going to find out who all of these seeds will meet in round 1. Goodness me, it's a great draw for Alcaraz. It's a great draw. Yannick Sinner will face fellow Italian Luca Nardi. Player from Chinese Taipei, Zheng. He's next out, and he will play Alexander Vukic from Australia. Pedro Martinez from Spain will play George Lofhagen, the British wild card. Who did he not have a good win over Opelka?
Sinner's going to get to the second week on that draw. I mean, he'd be all right there. And that's a very, very easy cut. Sinner v Shapovalov potentially there, but Sinner's that will be as lucky as he get that top half of the draw.
Yeah, Shapovalov will play Navoni, Mariano Navoni in round one. See the clay court specialist from Argentina. Grigor Dimitrov against Nishioka of Japan. Komasana has just come out, and he'll play Corentin Moutet of France.
Well, he could beat Dimitrov in round two, that one.
Q2, Draper's going to meet Bublik in round 3, isn't he?
Yeah. And then Mensik possibly, and then Djokovic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Draper's odds have just gone out, have just doubled, haven't they?
Yeah, big drifter.
Let's bring you up to date. Sebastian Offner to play Medjedovic. Monday, the British wildcard to play Tommy Paul. And Ben Shelton to meet Alex Bolt, the Australian qualifier. Ricky Hijikata of Australia. Ricky Hijikata will play David Goffin of Belgium. Kovacevic of the United States. He's been drawn out, Alexander Kovacevic, and he'll play Martin Fucsovic, the Hungarian, who's actually a lucky loser. Gael Monfils against Hugo Humbert. That could be an intriguing match.
Yeah.
And Brandon Nakashima, the 29th seed, will be up against Yungchakete Bu of China. Not exactly big names being produced at the moment.
It's the Q2 that's the difficult one, isn't it? I mean, that's the reason. Q1 is pretty easy for Sinner. Sinner should get to the semi-finals, but that Q2 is the one that's really, really hard. Like, honestly, Draper, Bublik, Mensik, Diminor, Mickelson who's in form, Djokovic. I mean, that's very tough.
Just getting to the end of Q1. So with all of them been drawn out, I'll just bring you up to date. Shevchenko against Riley Opelka, the giant American. Faria, the Portuguese qualifier, against Lorenzo Sonego of Italy, and Basilashvili of Georgia.
Playing round one.
In Musetti, and Jack Draper's going to play Baez of Argentina.
He'd be all right there.
Yeah.
Collignon of Belgium will play Marin Cilic.
Well, Cilic v Draper round 2.
Yeah.
That'd be a good test of Draper's grass court credentials.
And Bublik round 3. Yeah. Wow.
That's a tough start, isn't it? Yeah, I think Draper's said his odds might have doubled before this draw is over. Fabian Marozsan will take on Jamie McCabe, the Australian qualifier. And Jaume Munar will play Alexander Bublik.
Not the easiest first round game to be for him.
Flavio Koboli will play Babit Zhukayev, the qualifier from Kazakhstan. And Thomas Echeverry is next out, and he'll play Jack Pinnington-Jones, another British wildcard. Marcus Giron, the American, will play Camilo Ugo Carabelli of Argentina. And Hugo Gaston will take on Jakub Mensik, the young Czech who looks a real talent.
So far, Draper's route will be Cilic round 2, Bublik round 3, Mensik round 4, and then probably Djokovic quarterfinals before he gets to semi-final against Sinner. And I always say people to work out your accumulator round by round. And if you think that Jack Drake was 10-1 to win the tournament, you work out that accumulator, it'll be probably 3 times that price.
So Alex de Minaur to play Carballes Baena of Spain. Cazzo of France will play Walton of Australia. And Quentin Hallis will open up against August Holmgren, the Danish qualifier. Now, Damir Zumur from Bosnia and Herzegovina will play Thomas Makak in round 1. Alex Mikkelsen against Miomir Kecmanovic from Serbia.
If Mikkelsen played Djokovic in the round of 32, I think that could be a shock there. I think Mikkelsen could give him a game. I want to fade Djokovic even at his age, obviously, but Mikkelsen, Djokovic, I'd quite fancy Mikkelsen to beat Djokovic at a price.
Jesper de Jong, the Dutchman, will play Chris Eubanks from the United States. And then we've got all British wildcard clash, Dan Evans against Jay Clark.
And the winner probably plays Djokovic for those Brits there.
Yeah, Djokovic up against Alexandra Muller of France.
That's quite tough.
That's not an easy opener, is it?
No, it's a tough.
So that's the end of the top half.
Cool, Fritz Perregard.
Oh, Taylor Fritz up against Giovanni Pecci Pericard. Big
over 52 and a half games. Over 52 and a half. That could be well. If we should have the rule where he can play on forever, that would run the old match. Which it was
Isner and Mahou. Yeah,
Diallo could play Fritz in round 2. That's difficult.
Wow.
You don't want to be in that area. This is not
that's
a bit of a disaster for Fritz. And Pecci Perigard, then Diallo.
That's a tough start. Diallo will play Daniel Altmaier in round 1. The winner of that will play either Fritz or Pecci Pericard. Matteo Arnaldi against Botic van der Zandschulp. That's not an easy one either.
Yeah, that's tough for the American there. Pecci Perigard and then Diallo.
Brandon Holt against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Alexei Popperin against the British wildcard Ferry, and Luciano Darderi against Roman Safiullin. Kopriva is next out. Vit Kopriva, he plays Jordan Thompson. Benjamin Bonzi up against Daniil Medvedev.
He's got a favourable draw there, Medvedev, you know. He could be under the radar. Like I say, last 2 years, semi-finalists, easy draw, very easy section there. Fritz could go out, could open up for Medvedev there.
Good chance of making the semis, yeah.
Yeah. He could be another one who would be a mover on the market.
Who are we? Where are we up to?
Hurkacz against Billy Harris.
Yeah, before that, Cerundolo against Nuno Borges, but Harris against Hurkacz could be interesting. Mochizuki of Japan, the qualifier, he's next out, and he'll play Giulio Zeppieri, another qualifier, but this one from Italy. And Mackenzie McDonald will play Karen Kachanov. That one could go deep as well. Matteo Berrettini first up against Kamil Matrzak of Poland. And Ethan Quinn of the United States. He's been drawn to face Henry Searle, British teenager. Didn't he win the boys' title a couple of years back?
Yeah, a couple of years. He won Junior Wimbledon, yeah.
I guess we've got to assume Berrettini's fit. I mean, you've got to take it on trust. You just wonder if it wasn't Wimbledon, whether he'd be playing. But
I mean, if he's fit, that's not a bad draw to him for someone at 100-1. I mean, he was second favourite with this tournament. But he pulled out before he got COVID. He's 100-1.
Now,
going to be hard for him. Oh,
tough one at the bottom. Alexander Zverev has got Arthur Rinderknecht of France, who's big server. That's not the easiest opener for Zverev by any stretch. Holger Rune will play Nicolas Jarry in round one. We're into Q4 now. Lerner Tien, who, as we said, beat Ben Shelton the other day. He's up against Nishesh Basavareddy, another American. Jake Fernley is next out, the Briton, Jacob Fernley, and he's up against João Fonseca, the exciting Brazilian. That should be a good match.
That will be a good game.
Jensen Brooksby up against Talon Griekspoor. Another interesting encounter. Yuri Lehechka will play Bolivia's Hugo Delien. And Bellucci of Italy. Mattia Bellucci will face British wildcard Oliver Crawford. But this isn't looking like a particularly tough quarter. Cam Norrie is up against Spanish veteran Roberto Bautista Agut. And Elmer Muller of Denmark will face Francis Tiafoe. I mean, that eighth of the draw. I mean, who would you? Fonseca might have a chance. Tiafoe might have a chance, but it's weak.
Yeah, Rooney would be pretty happy, wouldn't he?
I'm looking through the draw. I'm looking through the world rankings, and I'm looking at players who are quite capable of grass. And the only one I can see who hasn't come out, I'm looking at draw. I don't think he's come out. Jordan Thompson. He hasn't come out yet.
No, he has. He did.
Has he come out?
Where's
he come out?
Yeah.
I couldn't see him. Okay.
I will tell you if I've got it noted down in the right place. He came out a little while back.
Okay, I must have missed him. I'm trying to think who could be an opponent for Alcaraz who might cause him some kind of problems. But
he's in Q3, Thompson.
Okay.
In Q3, top half of Q3. So let's get you up to date. Andrei Rublev against Laszlo Djere. Zizou Bergs will play Lloyd Harris from South Africa. Adrian Manarino, who's qualified, he's up against O'Connell of Australia. Valentin Royer, French qualifier, will play Stefanos Tsitsipas. Felix Auger-Aliassime will play the Australian James Duckworth. Jan Leonard Struff against the Austrian qualifier Mizelic. Just three more names to come out. Great story, this. Oliver Tave, the Briton, who's, I think his record this year is 12-1, and he was injured in the match he lost. He's obviously been playing the ITF Tour. He's up against Reedy, the Swiss qualifier, and Carlos Alcaraz gets Fabio Fognini in round one. So that is the men's draw. I think top half. Oof.
If you want to stay with us for the mixed doubles draw, I'm going now. Tim will break you through the mixed doubles draw any second now. Well, that's a very, very favourable draw for Carlos Alcaraz, isn't it? I mean, that's the sum up there. I mean, the market's going to move. Sinner will be a drifter. Alcaraz will shorten up. Djokovic will get bigger. Draper will get bigger. Medvedev will shorten up. I think Lehechka might shorten up a little bit as well. You know, he's got Alcaraz in that section, but other than that, pushed him close at Queen's Club. Very, very bad draw for Jack Draper, and not ideal for Yannick Sinner, but an exceptionally good draw for Carlos Alcaraz. Massive draw.
Yeah, he'll be delighted, won't he? I mean, he's probably going to face the guy he beat in the Queen's final. You'd imagine Lehechka or Rune probably in that quarterfinal. And then, again, who's he going to meet? Whether Medvedev or Zverev in the semis. And yeah, he looks an easy street to the final for him already, doesn't it?
I'm looking at just sort of obviously these things never go to the form, but if you're looking at roughly where the path pans out in Q1, last 16, I've got Sinner v Paul. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
last 16, Sinner v Paul. Or Shelton v Musetti, potentially. Obviously, you've got Ugo Mbere in there as well, who could give Shelton a bit of a match. So Sinner v Paul, Shelton v Musetti. In Q2, you've got Draper or Bublik v Mensik. But Draper Bublik's going to be a tough one. Diminor against Djokovic. You also got to think about Bublik as well. Bublik will thrive playing a Brit at Wimbledon. It's not like it's what he's plays tennis for, these kind of matches. He won't freeze on the occasion. It'll be more like Draper will freeze on the occasion. So Draper, Bublik up against Mensik, Diminor against Djokovic. That's the top half of the draw. The bottom half of the draw, Fritz, Diallo. But Fritz has got Mpechi Perigard in round one. Medvedev, I think, has got a very, very nice draw there for him. Not Grass isn't his favourite service, but he has been a two-time semi-finalist. He'll be very happy with that. I'll give Hurkacz a chance here. Hurkacz, Cerundolo Kachanov, if Hurkacz is fit, he's been handed quite a nice draw as well. The unknown about Hurkacz and Berrettini is a really, really difficult one in this market because these two players have got injury concerns. But on their day, it started Wimbledon's. Hurkacz started about 20-1 last year or the year before, and Berrettini has started as short as 5-1. So if they're fit, they could be surprise packaged in that section at big prices. So Hurkacz v Berrettini or Zverev. And then in the bottom half, Talon Griekspoor, I think, will play Lehechka. I think Rune would be a fade for me on grass. And then you've got perhaps Tsitsipas against Alcaraz. So you cannot not see Alcaraz get into the semi-final. In the semi-final, his opponent's going to be probably Medvedev, an injured Berrettini, or a player who's come through along. Hurkacz, again, who's going to have a long time. Fritz, who's going to have a real tough route to even get there. So how can Alcaraz be troubled in the semi-finals? You just cannot see how Carlos Alcaraz cannot get to the final. I just can't. Who's going to cause any problems?
Yeah, that second quarter, just some of the names in that second quarter: Draper, Bublik, Mensik, de Minaur, Makak, Mickelson, Djokovic, all in Q2.
I think Sinner will be happy with his quarter, won't he? It's just a question of obviously that semi-final is going to be one of where it's going to be a big name, isn't it, for sure?
Absolutely. And yeah, Q3, as you say, Nigel, I mean, I've backed both of those, big outsiders at big prices, Hurkacz and Berrettini. But obviously the worry is fitness, isn't it, with those guys? The weather's going to have an impact, obviously, at Wimbledon. I don't know what it's like to you lot, but in Madrid, it's cracking the flags here. It has been for the last week or so, but it's still pretty warm where you are. I think the courts will be very dry. And that's going to help the big servers even more.
Yeah, Monday is going to be really hot, the opening day, and then I think it cools down a little bit of the week. Tomorrow, Sunday and Monday are going to be really hot, and we go into cooler conditions. But the opening matches are going to be extremely hot. The other thing about I'm just sort of concentrating on these quarters. Really, Q1 Sinner can't, he's going to be a heavy favourite to win Q1. Q2, the quarter bet when it comes out with Bet Rivers is going to be really interesting. But Q3 is going to be really competitive. I mean, who do you think is going to come through that section? Fritz could do it. I mean, he'd probably be the market leader, but Mpechi Perigard is going to be a long match. You would expect that to go maybe 4 sets, 5 sets, lots of tie breaks. Mpechi Perigard, obviously, massive server, the fastest server in the match. So that's in the game. That's going to be a long match. Then Diallo, that will be another. So he could be spent by the time he reaches the second week. Medvedev. You've got Hurkacz, Berrettini. Yes, Zverev, obviously Berrettini. I think from a betting perspective, Q3 really is going to be one of the most competitive quarters that we see in the quarter markets in a major for some time. Q4 Alcaraz is going to be what price is he going to be Q4 minus $4, minus $4.50. I mean, without doing the maths, you can't see him struggling against anyone. I mean, he's going to be against anyone in that section. He's going to be minus 1,000. Top price against anybody. Rune is probably his hardest match, minus 1,000. Borja Alissine, minus 1,000. So I can't see Alcaraz struggling at all. But Q3 is really, really, really interesting from a betting perspective. But the good thing for Alcaraz bettors is whoever comes Q3, you would expect them to play some marathon matches. And you look at the time on court from the winner of Q3 to what Alcaraz is going to be on court, I wouldn't be surprised if it's half. So, it's probably, I would expect Alcaraz on the back of this draw to start Wimbledon around about minus 110.
Do you think it'll be odds on?
I think if he plays Sinner in the final, he's going to be minus 125. But even money, I think even money will be the top price you're going to get on him. I think Sinner will go out to about plus 175. I think Alcaraz will be about even money, and he'll be bet. People want to bet him. I mean, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the.
I'm having a look. I've got the odds here. Alcaraz still plus 130
Who's this with Bet Rivers?
with Bet Rivers. Sinner plus 190. Djokovic plus 650. Draper plus $1,300. $13. I'd want more than that, frankly. Zverev $33. Bublik $40. Same price for Taylor Fritz. Lehechka $60. Medvedev $60. Shelton $90. And it's 120 bar those.
Is that definitely done on the reaction to the draw? I mean, are we certain
so.
that's done on the draw? Well, I mean,
Those are the odds on the site at the moment.
Well, I mean, I think plus 130. I don't think that's moved enough. I thought even money-ish. Yeah, probably. Yeah, Sinner's gone out to bigger than. Yeah, Sinner's the big mover. Draper's doubled in price. Absolutely doubled.
Draper, yeah.
I think he's still be bigger than 13. I think 13's too short.
What price is Medvedev now?
60.
That would be. I'd have a little bit each way on Medvedev and hope that he could that Alcaraz gets an injury or something, and hopefully it opens up for him. And what is the two? Well, I mean, what price is Berrettini now?
150.
And Hurkacz?
Same price, 150.
They might be worth a little bit of pizza money. You want to try to get someone coming out of Q3 who you can get as a semi-finalist at a big price, and then hopefully you can get Alcaraz beat someone along, which is a real difficult thing to do. But I think plus 130 Alcaraz is a bet now.
I don't think that will last long. I honestly don't think that will last. And we can bring you the women's odds as well. Actually, let's stick with the men's for now. If I could ask both of you, a player to fade and a player to back.
Well, I mean,
the draw.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, but we've done this in the newsletter. Now, obviously, the newsletter comes out today, but the play. I tell you, I wanted to bet Sinner when the newsletter was out, and I think Sinner will be motivated. And if he got to the final, I still want to bet Sinner. But on that draw, you can't. You and my fade was Jack Draper on the newsletter. But now he's doubled in price. You know, at 10-1, he was a fade, and the draw's gone for me. He could have gone against me. So I think from the reflection to the draw there, I think you've got to be betting Alcaraz at plus 130, and fade would be Jack Draper. But he's got to do it. If he won Wimbledon, that is just an incredible achievement from that draw. To go Cilic round 2, Bublik round 3, Mensik round 4, Djokovic quarter-final, Sinner semi-final, Alcaraz final. Well, that's an incredible achievement for a young man.
Good luck with that, yeah.
Very good luck with that. Tim, your thoughts? Fade and a back?
Yeah, well, again, a bit like Nigel said with that newsletter, my odds have certainly changed. My back was Alcaraz, and my fade was, as Nigel's was Draper. So those prices were far better an hour ago than they are now. But looking at that draw, probably I quite like the quarter betting will be really interesting with Q3 because I think Medvedev stands out for me there on that Q3 quarter. So that'll be interesting to look at. But yeah, Alcaraz is obviously a bit shorter now, and Draper is a bit bigger, but they were my backs and fades.
Okay, so that's the men's draw. We can give you the odds on the women's outright. Arina Sabalenka, I think she has shortened, has she?
She
plus
can't.
250.
She's
250. Is that about the price before?
No, I think she was
about plus 275 maybe.
Well, I don't know how she's shortened. That doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't make sense. But she's 250 now, plus 250. Jelena Rybakina plus 550. Coco Gauff $8. Iga Swiatek $9. Marketa Vondrausova $13. The big mover of the last week or so. Madison Keys $15. Mira Andreeva $17s. Jasmine Paolini $27. Jessica Pegula $30. That might be interesting. Qinwen Zheng $30. Amanda Anisimova $33. And it's $40 bar those. Your thoughts again, a fade and a back perhaps, Nigel?
Again, it's all in the newsletter, but
yeah.
Which is pre-draw, but after the draw. There's loads of them. Don't please subscribe to the newsletter. There's loads of content from everybody in the channel, loads of stats as well. I think Sabalenka's should be a lot bigger than the price she's there. I think she should be closer to 3-1 to win this tournament on what I've seen from this draw. I think the ones that I would take from it, I think Pegula at 33-1, it hasn't really moved at all. Where it's crazy when you think about it. I mean, Andreeva is not a grass court player for me. I think her breakthrough will come on at the French Open eventually. Krejcikova's in that draw, who I think is a massive fan. I don't think she'll play. She's got to play Ilya in round one. I mean, that's the toughest match you can possibly have. And I think Ilya could come into her own this tournament here, so she could have a breakthrough year. I think Pegula at 33-1 is definitely the one I want to take. How could we go with anybody in Q4 when you've got Swiatek, Rybakina and Goff in there, and Samsonova, who I thought could have a big week. And in Q2, I'm not liking the chances of Paolini this year. I know she was the beaten finalist last year, but her year last year compared to this year has been a bit of a drop-off. And a player that I've been impressed with on the grass, especially at Queen's, was Anisimova. And I think if you're looking at someone who could potentially win a quarter or somebody who can come through that section at a big price and maybe give you a run to the semi-finals, Anisimova would be my bet. So Anisimova and Pegula would be my takeouts on the draw. And they haven't really moved in any way.
No, Pegula's 30, Anisimova 33. And just to mention, Samsonova's $70, which is quite a big price. Tim, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, check out that newsletter for our sort of pre-match thoughts on that. My sort of outright was Sabalenka, and I'm probably going to stick with that, even though she hasn't got the greatest draw. That Vondrousova match in round 3 might be a tough one, wasn't it? Obviously, they played earlier this week when Vondrousova beat Sabalenka, but I think you'd hope it would be a different match on a bigger stage. And the one my fade on was Goff, and I'd probably stick with that. She's really tough first round. She might not even win that first round match against Yastremska. So yeah, she'd be the one I'd be against. Looking again, quarter betting is going to be really interesting on that draw. If you could look at someone like Pegula in that Q3, she should have a big chance of getting to the semis there. She's probably only got Alexandrova in her way, really. Again, Andreeva looks miles away from where she was a few months ago. Again, grass perhaps not her best surface. So yeah, bit of interest in Q3 for me.
Yeah, just seeing one of the comments. How's the draw for Rybakina? Not easy, not easy by any stretch. And I think Shane before was saying if Draper wins Wimbledon, would he pick McIlroy to be sports personality of the year? I think it's unlikely, Shane. I think
just
it's
back him
unlikely.
to win Wimbledon. Don't worry about sports personality.
Yeah.
It's incredible. As we said, we have talked about the Betting Weekly Insider newsletter. It's out today with our pre-draw picks on Wimbledon. It is a Wimbledon special, and we've got the Betting Weekly newsletter every Monday. AW says, I don't think the odds reflect the draw just yet. I think they will very soon. As I say, I don't think that 130 Alcaraz will last very long at all. I think the money will come for him. And I think the money will come for some outsiders in the women's tournament, as you say, Pegula, even someone like Samsonova. In that Q2 for the women's, I have to say, I was thinking, I'm going to completely disagree with Pro Tennis Trader, because I think Paolini's draw is really nice. And I think she might just get second week, and then who knows? Because I think it's a slap. She plays Iga today.
Yeah,
Iga Swiatek in Bad Homburg. And I know it always used to be a bit of a cliche, but you can play your way into a slam. And I think Paolini could do that. In the first week, she doesn't look to have too many tough matches. And if you get through that first week, in the second week, who knows what would happen? I mean, no, Paolini wasn't even she'd reached the Roland Garros final last year, but I don't think anyone really thought about her as a Wimbledon contender, and she reached the final. So
I think the other thing you got to worry about, Rory, is if it's quick, if it's hot, and she's got to play some big hitters, in that section.
Anisimova would be a worry.
Yeah, so I'd worry about her if it wasn't a very warm Wimbledon last year. It was pretty low by weather conditions. There was a couple of days which was okay, but I think if we get a quick Wimbledon, that's going to really be a problem for Paolini. I'm more inclined to agree with Pro Tennis Trader. So when we do the WTA show, I might have a little personal bet with you whether Paolini makes week 2 or not. We'll have a little wager.
Maybe we will.
I think just going on the weather, up to and including Tuesday, it's forecast to be very warm, and then it drops.
Cools down a bit after that.
Yeah, Wednesday
Cools down
onwards,
a
sort
bit.
of, yeah, a little bit, but still dry, and I think the courts will be drying out.
Yeah,
Not
could
much
be a
rain
very
around, which is
quick
the
Wimbledon.
big thing, hopefully.
Could be a very quick Wimbledon and a very interesting.
We don't
one.
want to give too many tips away, Roy. We've got to do a WTA show, outright show, in about a few hours from now. So make sure that
Yes.
people watch that. We don't want to be giving all our information out. So we've got to do that a bit later.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be doing that. We'll have Nigel with Sean for the ATP, for the men's singles at Wimbledon. And then tomorrow, we'll be giving you our best first round bets, myself and Nigel for the women, and Sean and Nigel for the men. So make sure you tune in for that. And then, of course, next week, we'll have Betting Weekly Tennis Live, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the in-play action from Wimbledon. I'm quite glad it only lasted. I was worried that this draw was going to last an hour and a half. So that it was done in sort of 45 minutes. I was quite happy about. Chaps, thanks for your time. Nigel, Tim, see you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Hit the subscribe button. We want that 5,000. We've had about 200 people watching this show at some stages today, so I can guarantee you that 50% of them haven't hit the subscribe button. So hit that subscribe button. We want to get up to 10,000. We do all this for free for you guys. Hopefully we give some tickets as well, and we're winning tickets, and we want to get the 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So if you are new to the channel, everything's going to be covered at Wimbledon. Loads of shows from all your favourite handicappers, but we need you to help us out by hitting that subscribe button. So thank you very much if you could do that. That'd be great.
As Duncan says, good luck all. Bring on the Pims and the strawberries and the cream. It's Wimbledon time. The best 2 weeks of the year if you're a tennis fan. And hopefully you'll enjoy it all with us on Betting Weekly and Betting Weekly Tennis Live. Yes, Lewis, like and subscribe. Exactly. And give us your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us who you think your fades and your picks for Wimbledon are. Pro Tennis Trader, he's subscribed. Well done, chap. Well done, sir. Get on there, like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Good luck with your bets for Wimbledon, and we'll be back soon with some more content on the best 2 weeks of the tennis year. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.